Elizabeth Hanson from the Swedish Family Care Competence Center to tell us about carers' situation in Europe. The floor is yours.
Thank
Elizabeth.
you very much. Good morning, everyone. As Giovanni has kindly explained, the focus of my presentation this morning is about carers of older people in Europe, their needs and preferences with regards to information, education, training and support, and the use of information and communication technology-based tools. And the context of my presentation is set within the outcomes of the Innovage project. So if we remind ourselves, I'm sure as we all know, but it's good to remind ourselves, who is an informal carer? Well, as we know, carers are people of all ages who provide care, usually in an unpaid capacity, to someone with a chronic illness, disability or other long-term health or care need outside a professional or formal employment framework. We know that there is a predominance of informal care, indeed, in most member states, as we've just been alluded to. There are indeed 20 million carers who are providing 20 or more hours of care a week. 80% of those care hours are indeed provided by informal carers, namely spouses, adult children and friends. Predominantly women 45 years of age and over. In nearly all countries, more than half of carers under 65 combine care with employment. However, a significant proportion of people are indeed excluded from employment as a direct result of their care responsibilities. And if we turn to look at the economic value of care, as has already been mentioned in the video for a moment, we can see that that value of unpaid informal care ranges from about 50 to 90% across EU member states as a percentage of the overall cost of formal long-term care provision. In the UK, indeed, it's been calculated that the value of informal care equals over 141 billion euros. It's a tremendous amount of money, isn't it, and contribution. However, we do know that informal care is indeed under pressure for the following reasons. We have lower birth rates, smaller families, increasing mobility, rising number of women entering the labour market, combined with prolonged working life. So there are growing concerns also about shortages of formal caregivers, lack of support for informal carers, and indeed risk of exclusion for carers. And these concerns are amplified, they're increased by the economic crisis and any reductions in those services. So what does that help, support and care consist of that's provided by informal carers? We know that they provide a range of practical help with activities of daily living. Also company, stimulation, help with recreational activities that are so important for their dependent members' quality of life, help with contacting health and social care services, so an important coordinator role, as well as monitoring, particularly for a relative, a significant other with a cognitive disability, keeping a watchful eye, as well as a number of carers provide hands-on personal care, that's nursing care, and many carers also provide financial support. So if we then turn to look at the nature of caring, it's often seen as a natural part of human relationships, isn't it? It's part of our social fabric to help care for a loved one, often seen as reciprocal. It's the give and take of human relationships. So with that, there's often a strong sense of moral duty or obligation. It often includes a temporal perspective or a life course perspective in that we enter into phases of caring during our life cycle. And indeed, we often say that we're either currently caring, or we have been caring, or we're likely to care in the future. So indeed, it affects many of us, doesn't it? As we know, it can be deeply satisfying and give a strong sense of meaning. That's something that I think is not emphasised enough or researched enough. However, there is a caveat to that, in that we know it doesn't suit everyone. Caring isn't for everyone. For instance, when someone has a highly conflict-filled relationship with a relative or significant other, we know then that to take on board quite significant caring responsibilities may indeed heighten that already conflict-filled relationship, and over time it may lead to an abuse situation from occurring. We also know that, as we've already talked about a little bit this morning, that the issue of self-recognition is a crucial issue, because as the nature of caring is often seen as natural, many carers don't identify themselves as carers. So that's we have a lot of work or way to go in terms of helping with increasing self-recognition. But also at a wider cultural level, at a social and cultural level, in terms of recognition of carers in a number of EU member states, that level of recognition is also indeed very low. So as I say, we have some more work to do in that area. And if we turn to look at the health and well-being of carers, we know that the risk for ill health, both physical and mental, increases with the intensity of caring. So particularly if we're providing, for instance, more than 20 or more hours a week of care, and also the length of time caring. If we've been caring over a number of years, our risk for ill health increases. Women tend to be more adversely affected than men. And indeed, we can see that carers of working age, that's those carers that aren't in paid employment, indeed experience the poorest health status, greater poverty, higher risk of social exclusion compared to working carers and non-carers. So if we now turn to explore the core needs and preferences of informal carers, and I would like to exercise a word of caution about seeing carers as needy, as we know carers provide a tremendous contribution, not only on an individual level, but also in terms of a contribution to our health and social care systems and our entire society. So I think it's much more appropriate, and I would argue strongly, it is rather to see experienced carers, those that wish to care and continue caring, to see them experienced carers as experts regarding their own caring situation. They often know best how their relative or significant other would like their care. They know their personal preferences, they know their in-depth life history. Indeed, I would argue there's no one else who has that detailed knowledge. It's essential knowledge. So indeed, it's more about working together with the formal care sector and indeed carer organisations. And indeed, the role of professionals, I would strongly argue, is to enable, empower those carers that wish to care, enable them to become experts, those who wish to care, as quickly and as smoothly as possible, helping them to avoid the trial and error of learning how to do things wrongly and getting frustrated and stressed, to enable them to become experts as smoothly as possible by providing relevant and appropriate information, education and support. And indeed, I would argue from the research, we can see that the core needs of carers indeed do fall within those three main categories. So in other words, it's all about enabling, empowering the carer to do caregiving well. So what then does the information, education and training, what are the needs or preferences, should I say, of carers with regards to information and education? Often carers would like to have a much more in-depth knowledge and understanding about their relative or significant other's illness, common problems and treatment. How can I best manage the troublesome symptoms, but also what are the range of local support services available to me? What are the range of financial benefits open to me? And what about the range of assistive devices that can help to make my caring situation on a daily basis or weekly basis much easier? And also what are the range of adaptations that can be made to the home environment to make it safer for caring? And indeed, for those carers who are helping someone with a cognitive difficulty or been caring over a prolonged period of time, to have help with coping skills, to explore the coping resources that are available, and to perhaps try and see if one can extend the range of coping strategies that one's using. But also, particularly for people who are carers that are providing personal care, to have practical skills in terms of how to best care for a relative or loved one. Very practical skills such as how moving and handling, care of someone with incontinence, care of a relative with a pressure sore, for example. And within all of this, in terms of information and educational preferences, it needs to be very clearly suited to the individual carer, match with their educational background and personal preferences, and also match with the phase of caring that they find themselves in. So, for instance, if we're experiencing a novice carer who has no previous caring background, then quite clearly that carer often needs a lot of practical information about how best to deliver care. However, if we have an experienced carer that's often learnt the tricks of the trade, learnt by trial and error over the years, they are an expert in terms of the practical aspects, but they may indeed need perhaps help with the coping skills and strategies, for example. And if we then turn to look at the support preferences of carers, they can largely be summarised within two core areas of practical and emotional forms of support. So in terms of emotional support, very fundamentally, having someone understanding to talk to, often outside of the family network. That may be a person on a one-to-one basis or in a group situation, and indeed it may be with a peer or fellow carer who understands exactly how it is, and indeed it may be a professional carer, for instance. And when we turn to practical support, it's very important for carers who are carrying out significant amounts of care for there to be availability of quality respite care services deemed as good quality by the carer and the person they're caring for, and also fits in with their caring preferences. As well, to be able to have practical assistance with caring tasks, as far as possible, to be able to negotiate those caring tasks that I would like to carry out as a carer, but also to be able to say very clearly those other tasks that I don't wish to carry out, that I would find difficult to do and that I need help with. And finally, as I've previously mentioned, the importance of having a suitably adapted home environment, so it's a safe and secure home, that the home is suitably adapted to make it safer for caring. So that in a nutshell is an overview of the needs and preferences of informal carers. And I'd now like to turn to explore how the information, education and training needs and preferences of informal carers can be best met by information and communication technology tools. And as I'm referring here to the work from the CARICT EU project, we can see really that one of the greatest potentials for ICT tools is that it can offer a very flexible information, education and support for carers at the point of need. So it can be accessed at any time of the day or night when it suits me. So if I'm a working carer, I can access it in my lunch hour, or I can access it late at night. It doesn't matter. It's when I need it. It's available. We can see that it has a highly positive impact on carers' individual perceived quality of life. However, we do know that evidence is weaker at an organisational and at a broader societal level. So we have some further work to do. And as we know, a major challenge is that there are low digital skills existing among informal carers. So that is equally a challenge that we have to overcome. In terms of low digital skills, I'd like to share with you some of the key lessons learned from my work, and I say not only my work, but work of colleagues within the Action Service, which is an acronym for assisting carers using telematics interventions to meet older people's needs. Began life as an EU project way back in 1997. and is currently a mainstream service in a couple of municipalities in Sweden. And this service is geared towards computer novices, older spousal carers, the vast majority of which have never switched on a computer before. And via their personal computer, they're able to access a range of comprehensive educational programs, as well as take part in a comprehensive group training program to learn how to use the technology. And as well, via an integrated video phone, picture telephone, they're able to get in touch with other carers, action users, as well as have access to professional staff at a dedicated call centre. And so some of the core lessons learned from this service are the following: that indeed older clients and carers consider that new technology is great to use, providing it's easy to understand, it's easy to learn to use, and most critically, they can see it's of direct use or benefit to them in their everyday caring situation. So over time, it helps them to feel much less socially isolated, because they develop informal support networks with other families. And I can say time and time again, year after year, that is the key benefit, that the users develop informal communities of support that are looking out for each other and supporting each other. Carers themselves express that they feel much more competent and secure in their caregiving role. They gain, in a sense, more control over their caring situation, and that in turn helps them to increase their self-confidence and self-mastery in their ability to care. So that's an overview of an ICT tool that's based or directed towards computer novices. And I'd now like to share with you and focus on providing a taster of our Inform Care Information Hub, and how that can best help to meet the information, education and training needs of informal carers across Europe who are indeed internet users. And I'd like to do that by sharing with you and going through with you a couple of case studies. They are real Swedish carers. And the first one is indeed Bengt, who is an older spousal carer. And I would now like to transfer, please, to the Inform Care Information Hub on the front screen. Thank you very much. I haven't finished, sorry. I just need to, sorry. I haven't finished. I'm only halfway through. I'm sorry, you've got more of me. I just have to share the carers with you. 10 minutes left, yes, thank you. Yeah. I'd like to share with you then, first of all, Bengt, who is 80 years of age, retired, a previous salesman. He worked for an international company, and he travelled frequently in Europe, often to Hamburg. His wife, Raina, 78, has had a severe stroke, which meant that she required help with nearly all activities of daily living. Bengt very much wanted to care for his wife. As he explained, Raina had helped to raise the children, looked after the home, looked after him, and now it was his turn. He very much wanted to help. But he admitted to me that his contribution really around the home was really, in a sense, helping with the washing up on Christmas Day afternoon. So I would like to say also that Bengt did, shortly following his retirement, he attended a local adult education centre where he learnt some computer skills because he wanted to learn how to do internet banking. So let's see then how the Inform Care Information Hub can help Bengt and Raina in their situation. As we can see here, I'll just go back a moment, sorry. As you can see, this is the first page of the Inform Care Information Hub. And if you can see here also, I'm going to be going on to caring for the elderly. And then I'm going to click on stroke, because Bengt and Raina would like to understand much more about stroke in order to best learn more about the condition that Raina has. So here you'll see some basic information about stroke. And then, as you can see, if they want to have more information and more education, they can actually click on the Stroke Association's website. Now, obviously, I'm showing you in English, but Bengt and Rainer would have access to that in Swedish, so it would be the Swedish Stroke Association. And what I want to highlight by that is we're not reinventing the wheel. Where those websites are available, we have direct links. So it's making most of the information, but it's making it much more accessible. Then if we look at, we go back again, I'm going to show with you, I'm going to go into, wait a minute, that's right. I'd like now to go into mobility services, because Bengt and Rainer feel that they very much like to get out. Rainer is a wheelchair user, so they haven't been able to get out as previously. So they're going to click on the mobility services and see in actual fact what help they can get with transport services. So it makes it feasible for them to get out and have an enjoyable day out together. What are the possibilities, and indeed are they eligible for any benefits to make that day trip feasible? For example, I'd also like to go through now with you to the interactive services, and for that I indeed need to go back to the PowerPoint presentation, please. Because due to privacy and security reasons, I'm not able to show you on the Informed Care Information Hub, because I don't want to show you other users that are on the platform. So if please I can go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you very much. So what I'd like to share with you is when you click on the interactive services, one of those is the social network. And this is basically like Facebook, but it is a closed network. And Bengt has found that he's found himself increasingly isolated in the evenings, because Rainer often needs to go to bed early at 6 o'clock after supper because she gets very tired. Bengt is increasingly quite isolated. So he's plucked up courage and gone into the social network as a passive user. He does understand a lot of German. He can write a little bit of German. So what he did is he plucked up courage and asked to be friends with a couple of the German users. And they've now started making posts to each other about Hamburg, his favourite German city. And it passes the hours away in the evening, and he's found it really enjoyable. So that has helped to break his social isolation. If I can then turn to the case of a working carer, and it's Pia, who's a working carer. She's a dental assistant, 54 years of age, who cares for a partner, Hans, who is 60 years of age and has developed Alzheimer's disease. Pia met her new partner quite fairly recently. It was a second relationship following divorce on both sides, and they shared a love of Swedish folk dancing. So they would often go to folk dances at the weekends. After a while, they moved in with each other. But unfortunately, a number of months later, Hans became very withdrawn, quite depressed, increasingly irritable, and no longer wanted to go to the folk dances. So after a further few more rather difficult months, Pia finally persuaded him to go to the doctor. They went together. And then following further formal tests at a regional specialist memory clinic, he was indeed diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And then a further year later, following that diagnosis, Hans's dementia illness had actually progressed quite dramatically, so that he needed some help with activities of daily living. So in actual fact, Pia and Hans have home care twice a day whilst Pia goes to work. But she does get up early in the morning to help Hans before she goes to work, and she helps him as soon as she gets through the door in the evening. So let's see how the Informed Care Information Hub can help Pia and Hans in their situation. Pia openly recognises... That's right, yeah. Pia openly recognises that if she didn't have a work to go to, she would really go stir crazy. She gets a lot of support from her workmates. However, she recognises that she is becoming increasingly short-tempered with Hans and would like to know how best to cope with the situation. So if we look at your own needs and click on to coping with caregiving.
Sorry, this is what we are seeing right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't asked. Sorry. Can we go back to the Informed Care Information Hub? I do apologise. Yeah, so if you can see here, we have your own needs up at the top. And if we click onto your own needs, you can see we have coping with caregiving. Pia would like to know how best to cope with her situation. And then as you can see here, it's quite an extensive information and educational material. Pia would like to know how to cope with dementia. And if we click onto the coping with dementia, we can see some excellent educational material, which is indeed from Alzheimer's Scotland. Now, Pia is then able to go through this when she has time, if it's in her lunch hour, or if it's later in the evenings. It's when she can manage to look at that, and she finds that extremely useful and educational. Pia would also like to know how really best to, she's unsure how much longer she can continue to combine work and care, and would like to know really more about what entitlements she has as a working carer. So if we look on the left-hand side, we can see about legal regulations, and indeed if we click on there, then Pia can see what entitlements she has as a working carer living and working in Sweden, for example. And then finally, if we explore that Pia has admitted that she, although she has a lot of support from her workmates, she finds that there isn't anyone else who is caring for a relative with dementia, and she does find herself increasingly isolated. So if we can go back, please, to the PowerPoint presentation. Due to privacy and confidentiality reasons, I don't want to get into the live forum, obviously. So if we, thank you very much. I can show you then that Pia has started to be involved in the forum, which is, in a sense, a place where she's able to, she started as a passive role, really, reading posts, and has found that there is another dementia carer, also a working carer, and they've actually started having longer posts to each other, sharing experiences and gaining a lot of support. And she finds that invaluable because it is a private network, and she's been able to really open up and explain how she's feeling. But she's very much aware and wants that to be a private. It's very important for her that it isn't an open forum. And also, she has started... Oh, I haven't got that on. I was going to show you the private messages. That in actual fact also there is a function where you can send a private message to the moderator, and Pia has actually done that because she wants to have help from the moderator, which in Sweden is Frida Andreasson, because she would like to have help to know how best to negotiate with the home care staff. Because she finds that carrying out personal care is very stressful and it affects her sexual relationship with Hans. So she would like to know how best to negotiate so that she can carry out the tasks that she'd like to do, but also to ask them to help with more personal care, for instance. So she's got help from Frida in order to help her in a caring situation. So that, in a nutshell, really is a flavour of the potential of Informed Care Information Hub. And I'd like to finish, first of all, with a quote which I think is highly relevant from the Social Protection Committee and European Commission's report in terms of long-term care. And it clearly states here that the areas where technology can make the biggest impact in formal care in the home is the one where there's least knowledge of the technology that's available and what it can do. There's an urgent need to create channels of information to home-based family carers via electronic networking, for example. So we sincerely hope that the Informed Care Information Hub can indeed go some way towards creating that electronic networking among and across EU member states. And finally, I'd like to finish with the words of a colleague of mine, Sven Eriksson, who's a former steering board member of Carers Sweden. Cares for his wife who has a dementia, And Sven previously worked in the shipping industry, had no caring background at all, so he said it was a jungle. And when I asked him what would help him most, what was most important for him, he turned to me and said, Elizabeth, it's all about getting knowledge, and once again knowledge. So I sincerely hope, and we really strongly believe, that the Inform Care Information Hub can go some way towards helping to meet Sven and millions of other carers' needs and preferences with regards to information, education, training and support. Thank you very much.